And once again, welcome to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bryant. Today, the wonderful world of Division III wrestling and the fiercest rivalry within Division III wrestling, probably one of the fiercest rivalries within Division III athletics. And while we're at it, we've got Iowa-Penn State coming up this week. That's a pretty good rivalry in wrestling. This one, though, will give any wrestling rivalry a run for its money. Augsburg, Wartburg coming up on Thursday in Minneapolis, Si Melby Hall, 7:30 p.m. Today on the show, co-head coach at Augsburg, Tony Valek, head wrestling coach at Wartburg, Eric Keller. One of the few times you can get you guys in the same room together and you're not ready to strangle one another during the wrestling season. So I want to thank you guys both for coming on. And first off, I'm looking forward to being there on Thursday night. I got to say, Augsburg does me a solid. They bring me in to announce because I'm 12 minutes away. So sorry, Eric, I'm actually a hired gun this week. So right now I'll be neutral, impartial. Thursday, they're stroking the check. So it's going to be a little bit more oomph for the Auggies.
I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that, man.
Okay, we'll pretend.
You're with us.
I do have the Wartburg hat just above me, and I have the Augsburg shirt in the closet. I wasn't sure what I was going to do as far as attire goes today on the show. But, Tony, let's start with you and the co-head coach with Coach Jim Mulsoff. You've been in the role since you've graduated. You finished up in 2012. And much like Keller before he stepped into the head role there, you are a co-head coach. Explain the duties and responsibilities you share with Coach Mulsoff.
Yeah, so I think it's just kind of a two-man team as far as we share a lot of the responsibilities, make a lot of the decisions together. I'm fortunate having gone through the program to be an alumni, and obviously Coach Mulsoff's been here during basically my entire time as a wrestler and a coach. So from the get-go, from the very beginning, he's been empowered me to help make decisions with them. And so I think as we continue to, make the transition together leading this program, it's helps me in my role to be co-head coach for recruiting with the guys in a lot of different ways. So we pretty much share all the responsibilities together. He's a super people person. I'm pretty organized. So I think we help each other in both those ways.
Eric, in your situation, before you became the full head coach, you were the co-head coach with one of the legendary icons of the sport, not just Division III, but the sport as a whole, Jim Miller. What was it like kind of assuming the co-head coaching role with him before taking over the role completely?
Well, we coached together from 2000 until I took over. And so, I had a 1-year hiatus where I was at North Central for 05-06 season. So, really we had worked together and coached together for all those years. And so, it was a pretty seamless transition. We knew each other well. We knew our styles well. And, kind of what Tony just alluded to, we complemented each other really well.
And look at the way this dual meet and this rivalry has basically come to be. Of course, Coach Jeff Swenson, Coach Jim Miller really kind of elevated this. But, there's a proud wrestling tradition prior to this Battle of the Burgs becoming a thing. I'm going to go back to Eric. Eric, talk a little bit about the impact that the late Dick Walker still kind of has on the program, the footprint that he had before Coach Miller took over.
For sure. Our wrestling room is named after Dick Walker. His sons, Matt and Steve Walker, are both heavily involved still in our program and supporting our program. His grandson, Luke Walker, is actually on a wrestling team right now. And, just a lot of the lessons and things that he stood for, we've tried to continue to make sure they live on in our program. And, a lot of the guys that wrestled for him, a lot of the alums, continue to this day tell stories, and they're heavily involved support-wise. And so, our goal is to continue to keep his legacy alive. We introduced the Dick Walker Duels this year. It was the first year we had done the Duels. We used to have the Dick Walker Invitational for a lot of years, and that was about 4 years ago. Wartburg had finals on a Saturday, so we weren't able to have that tournament. It kind of went away. And so, honestly, just working hard to continue to keep his legacy alive.
Now, Tony, you've got your wrestling room at Augsburg named after a wrestling legend here in the state of Minnesota. It's Alan and Gloria Rice. Of course, Alan Rice, an Olympian and one of the founders of freestyle wrestling clubs, the Minnesota Wrestling Club here. A lot of in and out between when the Minnesota Storm and the Gopher Wrestling Club and all those guys come in through Augsburg, they come in through Minnesota. What's it like to, again, have an iconic name on your program's wrestling room, and how much do the wrestlers have to live up to that?
Yeah, Alan Rice is such a big supporter of all wrestling, but Augsburg in particular and Greco-Roman wrestling in particular. You know, Minnesota's got such a strong history as a state of Minnesota wrestling. I think it's pretty cool. You know, Pat Marcy, our first national champ at Augsburg, was actually on an Olympic team for Greco-Roman. So pretty cool to have a Division III guy represent the United States on an Olympic team. And Allen's really paved the way for that for us. You know, he still comes through. I bet we get him on campus 2-3 times a year. Which is cool to hear some of his stories because he's rubbed off on so many big time wrestling people through all his business deals and different things. So having his name on the wrestling room is really cool, kind of unique that it's not an alumni, but certainly a huge supporter of wrestling in Minnesota and in Augsburg wrestling.
When we talk about the rivalry, it's not just two programs. This is one of these things that really brings up that border war. We know Jay Robinson did the border brawl, border war, whatever you want to call it, with Iowa and Minnesota at the Target Center that set an attendance record back then. Iowa and Minnesota love to jaw at one another. I mean, you've even got, you know, like the Eustace brother, like Luke Eustace has totally, you know, disowned Minnesota. He's a full Iowan. So we've got those type of stories. You know, it's like we get those, who's better, PA or Ohio? Well, we get a lot of this with Iowa and Minnesota, and Eric, from a coaching standpoint, having been through this a little bit longer than Tony has, I'll say, give you guys a little bit of break on your age, but you know, looking at it from the state versus state pride, the school versus school pride, there's a lot of it there.
100%, and you know, I mean, it's number one, it's a healthy rivalry, you know, and the amount of respect that I have for their program and their coaches, you know, and even dating back to Coach Swinson when I first got in Division III back in 2000. But it is a heated rivalry, you know, and on the mat, there's nobody each team loves more to compete against. And so it's special though, you know, I mean, you think about, you know, I think it was 2014, the New York Times sent a reporter to write an article about the Battle of the Burgs, and it was on the front page of the New York Times. I mean, it's incredible. And so, you know, talking to our student athletes when they graduate, our alums, you know, the Battle of the Burgs is one of those highlights of their careers just because of the rivalry. And, you know, as a coach, man, you appreciate it because you know both teams are going to show up. They're going to give it everything they got, every guy. And it's just, it's hard to describe. And it's a special rivalry.
This duel really doesn't necessarily set things up because what happens in this duel can be nuts. At national duels in the past, it's been bonkers. You'd have national champs get beat back to back, and then the team that beat the national champs, I mean, it was just, you know, wildness would ensue. It's like you look at the lineups, okay, this is going to be the swing match. No, it's not. It's going to be the match you don't expect. It's not the 1 and 2 that are going to decide it. It might be the 1 and the unranked guy, and it's the unranked guy that comes out of nowhere. That's one thing I love about just Division III wrestling in general is the I don't care what you're ranked kind of attitude, and that's just kind of amplified. I've seen enough of these dual meets to see crazy things happen when Augsburg and Wartburg meet. One thing I want to go back to is 2015. And sorry, Eric, this might be a sore subject for you, but this kind of illustrates the point is the dual meet wasn't close at Si Melby. 31-9. Wartburg won comfortably. National championships in Hershey, it was a different story. Augsburg got on a roll, got all those bonus points. I mean, it was Pin City on the backside. So it's not like this is going to be, okay, this is a predictor of the national tournament. This is just a predictor of how crazy the national tournament can be. So, Tony, you guys were on the winning end of that particular year. So I'll start with you about what this duel does to set up the rest of the season.
Yeah, Hershey definitely was a high point for my coaching career so far, right? And I think the duel for both teams is a huge advantage because the national tournament's kind of a little, in Division III especially, is a little bit crazy like that. You have number 1 seeds going down on day 1. You have a lot of upsets. And so how do you recover from that? How do you prepare for that? And I think a big part of it is wrestling in high-profile duels like the Battle of the Burgs, right? Even refereeing tends to be a little bit different in this type of duel compared to just a regular duel or a regular match. And so I think it helps prepare us for those big matches to go to this national tournament, those big matches to place at the national tournament, getting to experience it. And sure, there's a lot of pride on the line. Of course, we want to win this duel. But like you say, ultimately, it's the NCAA tournament that people are going to remember the most down the road. And so I think this duel helps prepare both our programs to have success in the postseason. That's hard for anyone else to kind of emulate in Division III because they don't have a big rivalry like this. They don't have the tradition, the history that our two programs have. So I think it's a big advantage for us down the road.
Eric, in using that year as a teachable moment for a coach, what have you learned from a situation like that, where no matter how tough you beat a team down in a dual meet, there's still work to be done? So, how much of a situation where coaching for a duel, coaching for a tournament is different, especially when it's Augsburg on the other side?
For sure. I mean, I still don't eat anything Hershey's chocolate related to this day. I'm not gonna lie. I think about Hershey a lot, man. I do. And I give them all the credit in the world, man. They got hot, they got on fire, and man, it was crazy because there were times where they would literally be in an overtime match and get a pin. I mean, things like that were just bonus. But that's the national tournament. There's a lot of ways to win a championship, and nothing's ever a given. And believe me, going into that year, the result of that duel. Not one time did we ever think, oh, we're going to win this national championship. We knew what we had to do. We knew the work we had to put in. And, just so you know, I mean, there was never and there hasn't ever been a time where I think it's going to be an easy championship, because there's not. That's what makes it special. And so, but what he's talking about a little bit too, that is why guys go to Wartburg and Augsburg, because number one, these are the two programs in the country where, as an institution, as a staff, as anybody on this campus in these communities understand that wrestling is valued. And so when you get an opportunity to come to one of these programs and wrestle in the Battle of the Burgs, it does prepare you, because it's an intense environment. When we go up there, we know it's going to be an intense environment. We love it. We embrace it. I know that they know the same thing when they come down here, standing room only at Levick Arena. And, those are things that you can't emulate. Those are things that, unless you go into those experiences and wrestle these battles, it's hard to prepare for otherwise. So it does. It's a special opportunity for guys. And, as an indicator for what's going to happen the rest of the year, I don't think anything ever is an indicator. I mean, you just got to keep getting better every day.
Normally, you guys wrestle twice a year. One scheduled for, the alternating home site versus home site. This year it's in Minneapolis. Next year it'll be Waverly. But the other time is usually at the National Duels. And most of the time, it would have been in the National Finals, as up until this year, the only schools to ever win the Division III championship at the NWCA National Duels were either Wartburg and Augsburg. This year, both of your programs had issues with COVID and opted not to compete. And I'll start with you, Tony. And how tough was that a pill to swallow as a coach, and for your athletes to know that, like, this is a big thing you circle on your schedule, not just because you might be seeing Wartburg again, but the fact that you guys in Division III, actually I got to say, everybody that goes to the National Duels takes the National Duels seriously as a team. So Tony, what was the response there, and what went into the decision?
Yeah, that was frustrating for everybody, right? Because it almost felt like, wow, what is this going to snowball into something more like it did, the last year, obviously, when we missed the national tournament 2 years ago as well. And fortunately, we have gotten back on track where we're going to have the Battle of the Burgs on Thursday. We're going to have some, big matches the rest of the way here on track for a national tournament. So what I think stinks is we missed the experience of national duels. I think it's really cool to be by and Division II, Division III, NAI, the women's, JUCO. I think it's really cool that all those are in the same venue. I wish Division I would get back in it. So we missed that experience. A guy like Solomon Nielsen, this is his senior year, and he isn't going to get to have that back. So that part kind of stinks. And then also, just like we alluded to with the Battle of the Burgs, I think National Duels is a stepping stone for preparation, right? Of course, you want to win that. It's more for bragging rights than anything else, but I think it helps prepare you for the end of the year. So it was just an opportunity that we missed. We were super fortunate to be able to go down to Florida right after Christmas and get a good competition down there. So I think we still got what we needed to start the second semester, but obviously we'd have liked to be there and showcase the team we have at National Duels.
Eric, same question.
Well, National Duels is one of those events that, I mean, just for me personally, I absolutely love it, because you're wrestling for a team duel championship. And that part's so different than an individual national championship where, guys are going out there, they wrestle their match, they're doing their thing, and then boom, they're back in the team camp. And where, National Duels, you're all out there together, supporting each other. It's such a great event. The dual thing in general, and so getting an opportunity to compete for a dual championship has always been one of the highlights for our program. And it was tough. I'm not going to lie. It was really, really tough. And, it was out of our hands. There was nothing we could do about it. I have utmost respect and trust in our athletic training staff that made the decision. There was nothing we could do about it. And, like anything in life, it's what you make of it. And so, as hard as it was watching national duels those couple of days, we understood what happened. And, with our guys, we just turned the page on what was next for us. So, but it was tough. I mean, it was really tough. And, just you take these last 3 years, how weird it's been, 2 national championships canceled, just like this year, the top teams in the country not being able to go to the national duels. I mean, things that you'd never predict, never, and hopefully won't ever happen again. Hopefully it's all behind us now. And I'm going to keep thinking that way.
Yeah, and Tony, to Eric's point about the last 2 championships, March 12th, 2020 speaking personally here, will be one of the hardest days of my career, because when that decision's being made by the NCAA, we're up there at the head table. There's J.P. Williams and the various coaches, Bob Patneski, Scott Honecker, like the D3 committee, and then they all walk off the table. And then within a couple minutes, some coaches are pulling up Twitter, and like the tournament's been canceled. And then it was like the whole season's been canceled. And then here comes, Scott goes, "Hey, you're going to get this email from the NCAA. You need to read it verbatim." And it was the cancellation announcement. And there was, I'm not sure if you guys were in the building or not, but I know that there were about 15 teams in there still getting that last couple pounds off. Those are getting a warm up in, getting the last workout in. And for some, it was the end of their careers right then and there. And it was one of the most heart-wrenching moments of my life as not even a competitor. What did you guys tell your teams when that announcement came? I mean, where were you guys? I'll start with you, Tony. Where were you when the announcement came, and how did you tell your team that 2020 was gone?
Yeah, that was certainly one of the hardest things we've ever had to do as a coaching staff, and obviously for those guys. We had 7 guys at that national tournament that was the end of their career right then and there. 6 of them were returning All-Americans. 4 of them were returning NCAA champs. So that was tough, right? And so we were at the hotel. We weren't at the arena. We had a couple guys who were trying to get a little bit of their last weight off. And so we got them all in a room, and I looked at it a little bit like we just had to give them the information, right? Nothing we said was necessarily going to make them feel any better. We let them know we were there for them. We spent a lot of time that whole day and evening together as a group, celebrating the things that we had, the work that we had put in, everything that had went into it. But that was certainly some of the hardest news we had ever had to share, especially with as senior heavy as we were that year.
And Eric, this was down in Cedar Rapids, and there was a battle there with one of the Wartburg alums who's coaching at Loras College, and this was going to be a dogfight of a team title. And what did you tell your team?
Well, I mean, a couple things about that. It's wrestling's, I think, a little bit unique in the fact that everything you do is a culmination of the national tournament. And wrestling's one of those sports. I think maybe more than a lot of sports that, it's such a lifestyle. Wrestling's, it's not like you're just out there playing baseball. And I don't mean disrespecting other sports, but I'm just talking about what guys have invested since the time they were maybe first, second grade, all the way through their entire lives to have an opportunity to compete at the national tournament, and to have that last minute, especially the way it went down. It was hard not to felt like it was, just swept from underneath your feet. But, we talked to our guys and exactly what Tony just said, man. There wasn't really necessarily anything you were going to say that was going to make them feel better. The biggest thing was just trying to give them a little bit of perspective, some perspective things I took away from that whole thing is, making sure more than anything, enjoy the process, enjoy the ride, enjoy everything along the way, because you never know. And, I've been reminded of that lesson too many times, Aaron Wernemont, Kenny Anderson, guys that have passed away, and making sure that everything you do in life, that you're living in the moment and that you're enjoying it. And, bigger lessons, things I can go on and on about, but, trying to give them a little bit of perspective in the middle of what felt like a crisis. And it was hard. It's something you never imagine. And so again, like I said, I'd like to say it's behind us.
Now we're back to Cedar Rapids this year, but getting back to this duel, this rivalry, Wartburg leads the series 22-16. winning the last 4 in a row, and 9 of the last 10. So, Tony, those are stats you probably don't like at all. So going into this bout, you guys have 6 ranked. They have 8 ranked. What's the mindset in training your guys up for this duel on Thursday?
Yeah, I think a little bit, we got a little bit of a reset here. A lot of the guys on our team have never even wrestled in a Wartburg Augsburg duel that we're going to be wrestling. So I think it's going to be fun for them to go out. You know, we got a pretty young team. I think they're going to think the atmosphere is really exciting and cool. And we've been preaching about opportunity as we build up for it, and just going out and fighting for 7 minutes, no matter what, and good things are going to happen. So, I like to think that we're moving the right direction for this dual meet, but yeah, they've definitely got the better of us in the last few years.
And talk about the environment at Augsburg. When a normal dual meet, it looks cool. You've got the mat lamp, you got the thing. But when you bring in Wartburg, typically, this is a little bit different. I mean, the guys that have wrestled in dual meets, they're going to get a different experience if this is their first battle of the Burgs. So typically, raised platform, mat lamp. You bring me in, for example. Like, what's it like to prepare for something like this?
Yeah, it's definitely different. You know, I think it's even cool the buzz around campus. You know, yeah, we've got a lot of wrestling tradition, but people are excited about this duel. I think it's cool how many of the sports teams are bringing recruits on campus because they want to showcase how cool the atmosphere at this thing is. You know, our alumni, we always honor a national championship alumni group. So it's the reunion of 2s this year because it's 2022. So we got the 92 national championship team coming in 02, and then we're also the 25-year reunion of the 97 national championship team. So there's just a lot of people there, right? And a lot of an atmosphere that you don't get generally in a Division III wrestling duel, or even the national tournament. It's not as tight. The people aren't right on top of you. So we're planning on making it a tight atmosphere and putting a little extra pressure on the guys, and we'll see who performs in that.
Yeah, Eric, next year when we have you guys on to do this again, I'll talk about the experience in Waverly, but coming in as an opposing coach, I mean, it's got to be cool to see a school put this type of effort into a dual meet. Of course, this one has a lot more meaning to a lot of different people, but I mean, you go in, you know you're going to get a hostile atmosphere there.
Oh, it's hostile. Believe me, those those reunion groups that they have back every year, they make it very clear how they feel about Wartburg in a good way, you know, and I love that, you know, and I appreciate their passion. I appreciate just what you said, what the school puts into it. And again, it shows you the value that Wartburg and Augsburg put on wrestling. They appreciate the sport. They understand the sport. And, you know, I mean, I think I can speak for Tony and Jim both. I mean, we feel fortunate to be at places that love this sport and recognize the value that the sport brings. So, yeah, it's a hostile environment. We know it's going to be that way, and you know, it's one of those things that as a coach and you bring your team into it. For us, every year our guys have gotten closer together and elevated their level.
Question here from the chat for those watching live from Aaron Sweezy. He's a small school wrestling aficionado. Interesting question here. I'm going to put coaches. If you had one guy from the other team during their tenure as a head coach be on your team, who would you have loved to coach? We'll start with Tony.
That's good. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, who from Wartburg would you have wanted to coach? Yeah.
Maybe it's recency bias. And we're excited to wrestle him this week, I assume. But, you know, Kyle Briggs is just a guy that I think Division III wrestling is all about. He just goes out and scores points in all 3 positions. It was super cool. I think it was last year he beat an Iowa State starter who was ranked nationally. You know, he's a guy who everybody I think would love to coach is Kyle Briggs. So hopefully we'll give him a good match tomorrow night, or on Thursday night, I should say. But he'd probably be the guy recently.
That Marcus Levesser guy was pretty good.
Not bad.
I feel like he would have been a fun. I could have just sat back and had some.
Geez, you've been there that long? You've been there that long, Keller? Come on, because there was a time frame on this question.
Oh, there was a time frame. I didn't realize.
Maybe it's Leroy Gardner.
You've been there that long. That's the thing.
If there's no time frame, I think it's Leroy Gardner. You can't have Minnesota guys going across the border and wrestling at Iowa. I think if it's no time frame, he's got to come back home.
Yeah, Leroy he's doing a great job down at University of Ozarks too. Now, one thing gonna touch on that, Minnesota guys leaving, Iowa guys leaving, etc. One thing I've noticed about, especially start with you, Eric, like in Iowa, You've got the big three Division I schools. You've got Iowa State, Iowa, Northern Iowa. But I preach the fact that the smaller divisions are where a lot of our high school coaches are coming from. And I'm looking at the landscape of some of the best high school coaches in the state of Iowa. They are littered with alumni from what used to be called the Iowa Conference, now the American Rivers Conference. I mean, the amount of BV guys out there, the Simpson guys out there, the Wartburg guys out there. It's not a stigma to go Division III in a negative term in the state of Iowa. And you're seeing a lot of those great high school coaches come from Division III programs. How much has the influence of Division III wrestling really helped raise the level of high school wrestling within the state of Iowa?
I think more than any state, Iowa understands the Division III level, and the American Rivers Conference is by far the best conference in the country in Division III wrestling. And so, I think maybe the state of Iowa maybe takes it for granted how good Division III wrestling is. And so, no, there's no stigma at all. I mean, I think, guys come to Wartburg, they understand they're going to get the same experience and opportunities and coverage on a national platform that they would as going to a Division I school. And so, I think you're talking about high school level coaches and learning how to coach. I think of all the guys that have been through our program that are out there coaching at all the different levels and in high school, like you mentioned, but all the way up to Division I. And so, there's something to be said for doing things the right way, learning how to coach, beyond just the wrestling side of it, making great men and all the things that go involved in that. So, it's pretty special. And, again, I think the state of Iowa is pretty fortunate to have the high level that we have in Division III.
Yeah, and you mentioned all the way up to Division I. I think the reference there might be to former Upper Iowa wrestler Sam Barber, who at the time Upper Iowa was Division III, came through there. And, of course, he actually spent some time coaching at Augsburg for a little bit. So there's a tie there. Now, Tony, you grew up wrestling in Minnesota, made the decision to go to Augsburg, had been around the wrestling scene. Of course, there's some great wrestlers that came from your area that went on to wrestle at Augsburg as well. You've got some family ties to the school. When making your decision, Division III, Division II, St. Cloud wasn't quite where it was yet. It was on the way up with Coach Costanzo. Mankato was always a good program. You had a lot of options in Minnesota outside of the U. So for you as an athlete to go through this process and pick a Division III program, what went into that, and how do you sell that to your recruits now?
Yeah, for me, the main thing that I was looking for is where did I think I could become the best wrestler? And so, I had a lot of different options. I visited some different Division I schools. I looked at all those schools, near us that was the case for too, as far as St. Cloud. Yeah, Constanza was getting in there, and La Crosse and some of those schools. But for me, it came down to where did I think I was going to become the best wrestler? And I thought it was Augsburg for a number of reasons, mainly because they're going to invest in me. I had a relationship with those coaches. I knew that if I chose Augsburg, that they were going to do everything in their power to help me accomplish my goals. And I got that while I was here. And so now as a coach, that it's the same recruiting pitch and it's the same plan once they are here. Our goal is to make them the best wrestler they can possibly be, and the best person. Those two things obviously go hand in hand. I think it's different at the Division I level. If you don't get the attention, if you don't get that support, if you don't get that love early on, sometimes guys' careers don't go as planned. And so I think that's where Augsburg is a better fit for some guys, that they're going to get that attention right when they walk on campus. They're going to get that support in everything they do. And so I think that's a big part of the progression that we have here.
As it comes to this year's duel, Augsburg, you guys, Tony, you're 2-1 on the season, ranked number 8 in the dual meet rankings. Wartburg, you guys coming in had 3 wins this past weekend, 10-1. Augsburg, you guys have lost to Loris, which is another American Rivers Conference school. I'm never going to get that right. And then Eric and North Central came in and handed you guys an L at the Desert Duels. So let's start with you, Coach Keller, in terms of taking that loss to a team that's on the rise, a school you've got some experience with. But when you see a new kid on the block come in and punch one of you guys in the mouth, I mean, how does that readjust your mindset during the year and know that, okay, that win maybe just made their year?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a great job over there, and there's no doubt about it. Joe Norton was one of my first recruit that committed to North Central when I was at North Central. So, but yeah, no, I mean, no matter who it is, we're gonna prepare the same way, and we want to wrestle at the best of our ability. And so, it was disappointing that we didn't wrestle as well as we could have. We had some guys out, but that's never going to be an excuse, and that's never going to matter. I mean, you got to be able to find a way and next man up mentality. So, but no, I mean, it's one of those things that, like anything, win or lose, you take the lessons from it and go back to the drawing board and back to work and make the adjustments. And so, ideally you make those adjustments and you learn those lessons while still winning. And that's the best way to do it. But either way, I mean, we're going to learn.
Tony, same situation. Of course, Loras is made themselves a contender. Again, challenging both of you guys for a spot. But 2-1, you said it before we started. You guys haven't wrestled a dual meet in a while. So where are the match adjustments from way back in that dual meet to what we're going to see on Thursday night?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, in a duel like that, and in all duels, you see how important bonus points are. We already alluded to it back in 2015, how big bonus points were for us. In that Loras duel, we split 5-5 and lost that bonus point battle. You can't be giving up bonus points, and you got to find a way to get them if you're going to be successful. And that's so important in dual meets. So I think, you learn those types of things. We made a point to schedule some tough duels in the first semester of this year to be better prepared for this Battle of the Burgs matchup. Obviously we had Loras, who was ranked number 1 at the time. We had the Stevens Institute of Technology from New Jersey came in Eau Claire, so I think we wrestled 3 really tough teams to prepare better for dual meets. Our training's kind of with the idea that if you take a loss, you got to be able to get back up and wrestle again quickly. If you're going to be successful at the national tournament, you're not going to get a week to recover. So we try to wrestle a lot of multi-match tournaments and duels days. And so I think we made a point to be more prepared for this Battle of the Burgs duel. Last week, we still had a really tough competition with St. Cloud State, North Dakota State guys, South Dakota State guys. So I think all facing that adversity prepares you for adversity that you're going to see even within a match in a big dual meet like Thursday.
Yeah, and Thursday, let's talk about that just a little bit. Just not going to go weight by weight because the D3 pundits out there can do that. But 6 national ranked guys, according to the most recent NWCA rankings for Augsburg, 8 for Wartburg, and matching up at 5 weight classes will match. By the way, I just got to mention this, but this isn't a ranked matchup. But Eric, your 133-pounder has one of the most apt wrestling names of all time. Do you ever get disappointed when Joe Pins gets a tech fall?
Actually, last weekend, I was like, "You're no longer Joe Pins, man. You're Joe Tech," because he had 3 tech falls, and he goes, "I'm gonna fix that, coach." So that's what I wanted to hear. But no, he does. That name's awesome, and that kid's awesome. That guy's a worker. He's one of leaders in our program.
Yeah, 141. We've got top-ranked Sam Stahl from Augsburg, 8th-ranked Xavier Terrakina. A name these Iowa wrestling fans are starting to understand pretty well. Of course, with the tie there and the tie at Iowa State. 157, Tyler Shilson and David Hollingsworth. 174, Solomon Nielsen and Zane Mulder. 184, Eric Rogie and Kyle Briggs. The aforementioned, they call Dakota Howard at Virginia Tech a junkyard dog. I think Kyle Briggs is like the D3 junkyard dog. Again, just a bulldog out there that just fun to watch too. And in heavyweight, Tyler Kim and Jordan Brandon. So 5 head-to-head ranked matchups. 7:30, Si Melby Hall. So now, as we've got the stage set, a little bit of background on the rivalry, there's one thing I want to touch on that totally came to being on October 18th, and that was when Wartburg announced the addition of a women's wrestling program to start competition 2022-2023. Augsburg has had a women's wrestling program for the last couple of years. Some really nasty, good individuals on that team. Jake Short in his first year as the head coach there. So how soon are we to sing, Eric? I'm going to start with you because it's at your place next year that we're going to get the doubleheader Battle of the Burgs women, doubleheader Battle of the Burgs men.
It's pretty cool to think about. That was actually one of the first things that Tony texted me after he was congratulating us on adding women's wrestling, and that was one of the first things he brought up, which was exactly where my mind went too. Next year is a developmental year as far as recruiting for our women's wrestling program. But there's no doubt about it. That's something that definitely needs to happen. And, a lot of years that we had a high school duel before the Battle of the Burgs as kind of a whatever. I mean, the pre-match. So, I mean, I think it'd be awesome to have another duel there. And we're excited about that, and obviously with the great news over the weekend of Iowa sanctioning women's wrestling in the state, there's a lot of momentum around it. So, I know they're fired up to do it from that text, and obviously we're fired up to do it.
Tony, your thoughts on the soon to be, I guess, Battle of the Burgs women's division?
Yeah, I think the energy around women's wrestling is just so awesome for the sport in general. It's been awesome on our campus. I encourage any programs that are looking to add, get on the bandwagon. Women's wrestling's coming. And I think it's just exciting that the energy it brings for our men's program and vice versa. They support one another. We'll hear them in the stands on Thursday, the women's team here. They'll be one of our biggest support system. So I think it just adds another level to the Battle of the Burgs. Again, we talked about like the New York Times coming out. How cool of an article would it be? Highly ranked women's programs, number 1 and 2 men's programs to go at it in the same night. I think there's a lot of publicity even outside the sport of wrestling that can get behind a men's and women's duel like that.
I'm going to be 100% agreement there, too. You better check with my calendar because there's 2 days I can't work, Tony. That is my wife's birthday and Valentine's Day. And sadly, you've hit two of those dates at least one point since I've been living here. Now, moving forward, the last thing I'm going to touch on, maybe a bit of a broader topic that goes beyond Augsburg and Wartburg. But last year, the NWCA stepped up and created a national championship for those schools that were able to come and compete in NWCA Division III championship. And it was kind of open. You had limits on the number of kids you could bring, but it was the bigger brackets. We ran it at that new Extreme Arena. Although, as Cody Goodwin from the Des Moines Register said, when do you stop calling it new? It's almost 2 years old now. The Extreme Arena down in Coralville, Iowa, a tremendous event, gave a lot of the wrestlers a season finale to look forward to. So, Tony, starting with you, what was it like, and what did it mean for the NWCA guys like Dick Simmons to step up and create an opportunity for the wrestlers once that they announced that there was not going to be a 2021 championships either?
Yeah, it was so big, and you saw a lot of organizations coming together to create that opportunity for the kids. I think it made the guys feel supported as far as that Division III wrestling is a big deal, right? People want to see this national tournament. People are interested in these matchups. Extreme Arena was a really cool venue. I hope they get in the mix for bidding for national tournaments in the future. I thought that everything that way was run smoothly. I think it was actually Wartburg who stepped up and helped with all the testing as far as COVID stuff. So I think it was so big to show the support that our guys had, especially, it was hard when the Division II and Division I tournament was going on. That wasn't a good feeling knowing that we weren't having an NCAA tournament. So I think it was just so big for the experience of the kids. And I think it's going to pay dividends for us at this national tournament for the guys who were able to wrestle in that one last year. Just having that preparation, because your first NCAA tournament is a different animal a lot of times than most competitions.
Yeah, Eric, your thoughts?
What an outstanding job. I mean, seriously, it was an unbelievable job, especially if you think about all the logistics and how quickly they put that thing together. I mean, Dick Simmons, Eustace, Mike Moyer, his staff, and Ryan Callahan, our head athletic trainer, and the testing, providing the test, and our staff that jumped on board. And I know that was a lot of work on their part, but again, it shows you the value of wrestling, and just, fortunate is what comes to mind, that all of these athletes that were able to attend that event got the opportunity, because it was first class and it was ran like a national tournament. It felt like a national tournament. They really knocked it out of the park. They did an outstanding job. And I think Tony's absolutely right. I mean, guys that got an opportunity to compete in that, it did prepare them on a national tournament level, and it will pay off again moving forward. So, yeah, a lot of people stepped up to the plate. And, I'm eternally grateful for everybody that had a hand in that. And that arena, it's unbelievable. They really, really need to take a look at hosting some national championships there, because that whole area down there is fan friendly on top of it. So we support that totally.
Yeah, as a craft beer snob myself, I realize this isn't a beer show, but the couple establishments that are relatively close give me quite the variety. And if you catch some people on the right night, you may even hear Randy Lewis in there telling some stories. It's not quite like the Vine in Iowa City or Coralville in that regard, but it does create a cool fan environment, because wrestling, we're social beings. Now, the reason I asked that question wasn't just to give thanks for those that ran the tournament last year, but it showed that there can be big Division III brackets in a national tournament setting. So, kind of leading into my next loaded question for you, Tony Valek: do we need more qualifiers in Division III for the national tournament?
Well, of course, we need more qualifiers. When we look at the ratios for Division I, Division II, we have the most schools of any of the divisions. Division III, it's like 120 schools, something like that now, and only 18 guys at the national tournament. So I think it would be huge to get more qualifiers. I think it would also help simplify the disparity of the regionals, right? Some of the regions are a lot tougher than some of the other regionals, and getting more qualifiers, I think, makes that a little bit simpler, that you'd get the best guys to the national tournament. Because right now, I don't know that we do get all the best guys who deserve to be at the national tournament. I think we leave guys who could place in the top 8 nationally at home in some of the regionals. And so I think that would help that, just simplify those things too. But I think everyone can get behind and qualifiers at the Division III level.
Yeah, Eric, that would also create a scenario where even more number 1 seeds are threatened to go down in the first round.
I'll tell you what, it's honestly, it needs to happen. I mean, what Tony just said is exactly on. And, not to get too much into the weeds with the regional system and where it's at, but, all along the goal was to get the best guys to the national tournament, allegedly, and that's not happening. That's not happening, and when you take a look at some of these regionals and what's going on in them compared to some other ones, I'm not happy about it, because, ultimately it's a national tournament. It should be the best people at the tournament, and I think in Division III, we got to do a better job of figuring that part out. And then, exactly what you're talking about, more qualifiers. Why are we having 18 people at our tournament? That was awesome last year. I mean, what were they, 32-man brackets, Tony? Is that what they were?
Yeah, I think it's 1 per team. So most of them ended up being about that.
Yeah, because I think we had 33 squads competing. Pretty much everybody brought a full team. And also there was another tournament out east that also tried to fill that void for the teams that couldn't get that far out. So just want to, Tony, you alluded to the organizations trying to step up. I don't want to slight them and trying to create the opportunities. Granted, I had to all compete unattached, so no school singlets in that regard. But yeah, so, and from where I sit as just a general wrestling fan, I realize that wrestling can't necessarily apply the different rules to the other sports, because you're supposed to have some percentage, I think, based on participation compared to the other sports within Division II, Division III, et cetera. So I know that being another thing. I think we just got to add more programs, right? So the problem is we're adding more programs, and then, there's new programs in some regions that, okay, great, we got 7 more teams. Well, then we redo the regions, and some years that region may be nails. The next year that region may not be nails. So I think the target is also moving in that regard too.
I don't think the target's moving that much. I think I think the regions that are again, I don't want to get into the controversy of it all, but
it's been a topic on my show before. I think Tony remembers that episode.
Yeah.
He says, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you're right though. I mean, what about programs that are adding? And you look at the lower Midwest regional that has, I don't know, whatever it is, 5 of the top 10 teams in the country are in that regional. What is it like for a program that's a second-year program, first-year program, third-year program? I don't know. I mean, there definitely needs to be, I think, and I think a lot of people would agree, a step outside the box, better way to look at it.
Well, I think we could talk for another hour on this topic, but we will see you guys on Thursday, January 27th, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. That'll be streamed at athletics.augsburg.edu. So the crew there at Augsburg does a great job at running this event. I can tell you that firsthand. So I'll be there. I'll see you guys there. And once we get done, don't hang up. I got a question for both of you guys. But for you watching, you listening, you've been listening to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. As always, I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me, because you've always got time for Short Time.